I'll be reading a letter to the Superior Court of Alameda County from Dr.R.B.Ghosh regarding his case against the City of Berkeley. It's from June 12, 2015. Dear Honorable Executive Officer Wilson, I request your urgent intervention on my case number 2002-043750 to investigate this matter for fraud and elder abuse. Help me save my house, its temple, and nonprofit facility, and protect me from further elder abuse and fraud at the hands of Berkeley City Attorneys Zach Cowan, Laura McKinney, and other Berkeley City high officials, including the city-appointed receiver J. Benjamin McGrew. McGrew joined them and fraudulently sold my house and nonprofit and temple activity center in a central Berkeley location at the corner of McGee and Dwight Way. The two houses were sold for a combined $265,000, and their combined monthly rents is approximately $12,000. The receiver bluffed me and made me deposit $177,000 cash for repairs of my two buildings. I provided the money in addition to another $43,000 for professional services, and I paid a total of $210,000 when the receiver demanded another $189,000 for more things, including his fees. The receiver kept my repair deposit, which included $17,000 permit fees, and he was supported in this by Judge Frank Rash, despite the judges declaring in open court that $160,000 for repairs of the two buildings was a substantial amount of money. Yet, the property sold at historically low price in Berkeley. I deposited the money that I deposited based on Judge Roche's written order, but he did not keep his written promise. Rather, he helped the receiver and the city's attorneys. I brought the fraudulent activities of the receiver and city attorneys Zach Cowan and Laura McKinley before the judge, but the judge ignores my requests and objections and is now exonerating the receiver and his bonds. Please take action to stop these illegal activities and unfair business practices and corruption. I've attached a few examples of people who support me, an email from Robert Chiste, former mayor of Albany, California, whom I met several years ago, and I told him all about this. So he wrote for your review and action. I will provide you more details and further information by next Monday. I'm meeting with Mr. Chiste this coming week. Please feel free to contact him. See his email attached. I'm also requesting that you remove the receiver, but not discharge him, and also excuse the judge and assign a new judge for my future hearing. This is a letter from June 12, 2015, to the Alameda Superior Court from Dr.R.B.Ghosh concerning his case against the City of Berkeley. I'll be reading a letter from the National Ombudsman from 2007 to Dr.R.B.Ghosh concerning his case against the City of Berkeley. Dear Dr. Ghosh and Company, I received your federal agency comment form and supporting documents dated November 12, 2007, in which you expressed concerns regarding the City of Berkeley's closure of two of your nonprofit buildings, a non-denominational temple based at 2509 McGee Street and a commercial building at 1700 Dwight Way in Berkeley, owned by Dr. Ghosh. I referred your case to the City of Berkeley for a high-level review and consideration. The Office of the National Ombudsman was created by Congress under the Small Business Regulatory Enforcement Fairness Act to receive comments from small businesses regarding concerns of unfair or excessive federal regulatory action. Should you have questions or concerns in this matter, please contact my office. You can phone 202-205-2417, or you can email ombudsman@sba.gov. Thank you for bringing your concerns to my attention. This is a letter from 2007 from the National Small Business Administration Ombudsman Nicole N. Owens to Dr.R.B.Ghosh concerning his case against the City of Berkeley. I'm going to read a declaration from Dr. Felix Matzoy, current professor at Denmark University and former scientist at UC Berkeley. This concerns Dr.R.B.Ghosh versus the City of Berkeley et al. I, Felix Matzoy, a PhD physicist and research scientist at UC Berkeley, have been a tenant of Dr.R.B.Ghosh nearly 2 years. This letter was written in 2014. I've had the opportunity to observe Dr. Ghosh, his daily activities, and his tireless work on the world water crisis, and I am impressed with his dedication and devotion despite ongoing harassment by the City of Berkeley. I've witnessed such harassment pertaining to my apartment at his property at 1248A Ashby Avenue, where I've been living quite happily without problems. I have a small studio apartment where the electrical heater was functioning with no problems. But I observed that the city required Dr.R.B.Gosh to do new electrical work, which ended up being bulky and ineffective, and which required significant investment on Dr.R.B.Gosh's part. PG&E also contributed to the problems by not expediting the new service connection and accusing me of stealing electricity, which was an absurd claim. My bill was increased significantly as a result of the alleged stealing, a time in which I was out of town and used little or no electricity. PG&E required me to provide all my personal information for a lengthy investigation, which kept my apartment hostage without power for a week. But I was never provided the results or an explanation. I provided a detailed letter to Dr.R.B.Gosh about this matter, and I authorized him to use it to support our case. The purpose of this declaration is to bring to the attention of the Honorable Judge of the San Francisco Federal Court that I discovered that the city of Berkeley targeted Dr.R.B.Gosh, a senior scientist. I did not understand why, but later discovered that he had won a civil case against the California Environmental Protection Agency. Since that time, he has had trouble with the city regarding non-existing zoning violations. As I continued my research, I found that the city targeted Dr.R.B.Gosh to obtain his property and give it to their developer friend, Rob Richardson and Yeng Corman, at a price of $265,000, well below market value. The city also kept a deposit Rash had made of $177,000 supposedly for repairs, and it was never used for that. In general, the city does not enforce code violations regarding nuisances, according to a study by Gregory Harper. In one case, the community was forced to seek relief, but the court failed to impose receivership. The city passed stronger zoning laws in 1999. Those were used inappropriately against Dr.R.B.Gosh to seize his property, while a nearby well-established drug house that had been there some 2 decades was not targeted. Please see the Alameda Investigative Report detailing this. Similarly, the city has not taken any action regarding the Pacific Steel toxic waste site. It was determined to be a public nuisance and created a toxic environment. The city also regularized the unpermitted and illegal work done by Mr. Ryan Lau, a zoning board member at his property. He's still working for the city council member, Darrell Moore. Attached also is the letter of Nobel laureate Charles H. Towns, who tried to help Dr.R.B.Gosh retain his house and the nonprofit facility at 1700 Dwight Way at the intersection of 2507 McGee. The property clearly was indicated that it was at 1628 Park Street, owned by a Caucasian, was converted from a single story into a 4-story residence without using a licensed contractor, architect, or structural engineer. But in the case of Dr.R.B.Gosh's property, despite the use of the best available qualified professionals, including the best architects and licensed contractors, Dr.R.B.Gosh lost his property due to so-called code violations. I declare under the penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. Rash Ghosh ran for U.S. California Senate in 2018. Here's a comment someone made about him. Rash Ghosh appears to fall into the category of someone who is running because he has a grudge that he writes about. As he says, he has a bone to pick with corruption in California at almost every level of government because he became a victim of a penny ante City of Berkeley official who caused Dr.R.B.Gosh to lose his home of 17 years. It displaced his tenants, his nonprofit, and the Temple Activity Center. He says he became one of the nation's worst victims of elder abuse and gross injustice. His website he calls Audacity of Hope, which also gives a sense of his attitude. But I think this is not the way to win voters. Ghosh is an experienced environmental scientist who puts up his background as a giant image file. He ran the nonprofit International Institute of Bengal and Himalayan Basins, which not only is an outlet for his environmental research, but it's also the source of his dispute with the city of Berkeley. He says he believes in having no foreign war for oil. He claims to be a dedicated civil rights activist, and he defines that as fighting the California EPA and his local city government for discrimination, systemic racism, hate crimes, and elder abuse. His views on the issues are on the front page of his campaign site. Notable positions are no war unless we are physically attacked. He's working to build water infrastructure, advanced biomedical research, coverage for pre-existing conditions in medical insurance, and lots of concern about replenishment of aquifers. He's funding a program to use our advanced science and technology to provide services that developing countries need most. He has some novel ideas, such as a laser perimeter security system to reduce the cost of monitoring the border between U.S. and Mexico, and complete information of judiciary system to form a judiciary branch of government with an expanded grand jury system to chase down corruption and eliminate abuse of power. This is all separate from the executive branch. But one gets the overall impression, reading through his issues, that they are shaped by his long-standing grudge against the city of Berkeley. The author concluded that I don't think he has the background to unseat Feinstein.